Have you ever run into a software program that didn't offer an undo command? I mean, it'd be pretty difficult to expect that each and every command performed by each and every individual using the software was going to be executed correctly. That just wouldn't be realistic. Well, get this. The early versions of 3ds Max, being run on a DOS operating system, that's right, before the software was made available to the Windows platform, the original version of Max, then known as 3D Studio, did not offer an undo command. Can you imagine that? It instead relied on a combination option called hold and fetch. Although undo did thankfully make its way into the software a long time back, Max has kept the hold fetch commands in its arsenal, and when you understand what they do and how they work, you'll surely find yourself using them both in your personal projects. On the screen, I've simply created a couple of basic shapes that can be used to illustrate the power of the hold and fetch commands. When you hold a file, 3ds Max stores the look or state of that file at that particular point in time into memory, kind of creating like a snapshot picture of the way things look. If when working, you then find yourself in a situation where you'd like or need to return to the look or condition of the file at the time you held, you simply fetch the file. Doing so restores everything back to the way things were when you first chose to hold. And when I say everything, I mean everything. The objects, the settings, however the file looked, whatever had been done to the file, all revert back to that earlier held point in time. Now, you're probably thinking, that sounds kind of like the undo command. And in essence, it is. But the combination of hold and fetch offers a couple of very distinct advantages over the standard undo. For example, normally, Max provides you with the ability to undo up to 20 operations. In other words, to step back as far as the last 20 things you've done. Hold and fetch has no such restriction. You can go back 1 step or 100 steps. It makes absolutely no difference. Secondly, in understanding the value of hold and fetch, it's important to be aware that not everything in 3ds Max can be undone. In situations like that, hitting the undo button unfortunately has no effect on the scene returning to an earlier point in time. Now, there aren't many things in the software that can't be undone, but there are a few. So there's a couple of things that hold and fetch can do that the good old undo command can't. Let's take a look at how the hold fetch combo works. When you're wanting to preserve a snapshot of the current condition or state a scene is in, you simply go to the Edit pull-down menu and hit Hold. You could also opt to choose the keyboard shortcut Ctrl-H. Now, let's change a few things around. We'll start by taking the perspective view full screen. Why don't we maybe orbit to a different vantage point, and we'll zoom in and out. We can move objects, maybe activate the angle snap and rotate a few things around. And we'll also scale a thing or two. Let's also add a few things and change one of the new object's wireframe color. And we'll delete an object, then throw a few new materials into the mix. Okay, now if after doing all that, if we wanted to simply go back 1 or 2 steps, as you would instinctively think, just click the undo command. But if you instead wanted to go all the way back to the point at which you held the file, maybe further back than the undo command could offer, then you would simply pull out part 2 of the hold fetch feature, the fetch command. That too is located in the Edit pull-down menu. You could also choose to use the keyboard shortcut Alt-Control-F. After activating the command, a dialog pops up on the screen. We'll answer yes. Take a look at that. The scene in its entirety returns to the way it looked when we first held. Now, be aware that once the hold command's been initiated, there's absolutely nothing that says that you have to go back and fetch. You use it only when you need it. It simply serves as an additional safety net that you can use to get yourself out of a bind. Trust me, you start using it in your work and you'll quickly realize just how handy and helpful it is. Let me give you a quick rule of thumb as to when it might be a good idea to hold a file if you're still maybe a little confused as to the hold fetch benefits. Let's say that you're about to attempt an unfamiliar modeling technique, one that you're not 100% sure how it's going to turn out. That scenario will happen all the time. All you do is hold before getting down to business. If things turn out to your satisfaction, in other words, whatever you attempted came out as planned, there's no reason to have to go back and fetch your file. You just keep moving on. But if things don't work out quite as you were hoping, and boy, don't we all know how often that happens, all you do is hit fetch and you get yourself right back to where you were when you last held. It's really a terrific feature, one that you're going to wish every program that you used had once you get the habit of putting it to work. Oh, and one last thing you need to be aware of when using the hold fetch combo. When you do hit fetch, Max is going to remove any history that might have been stored up in both the undo and redo commands. So make sure to keep that in mind. You can hold as often as you like. When you fetch, you'll return to the last time you held. So that's hold and fetch. Get the rhythm of how it works, and my bet is you'll be using it all the time.